Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Gloria's Estates. And tonight, I wanted to do something a little bit different, something we've never done before. Just kind of a little bit of fun stuff. Tonight, instead of doing our normal treasure hunts or featured goods or even tutorials, we're going to do what we call story time. And basically, I just wanted to spend a little time with you and talk about some of my favorite stories about jewelry, not only from history, but also personal experiences and just some fun stuff that's happened over the years. And I figured everybody would kind of get a kick out of just different things that happen not only at the counter, but across time. The one thing that I truly love also with jewelry is the history of it. And that is really one of the fun pieces about being an estate buyer and an estate seller of jewelry is that you get to dig through literally piles of jewelry and kind of makes you wonder about the history of individual pieces and where they've been and where they've come from, the people who've worn them, and what they've seen all the way throughout time. So I wanted to start with one of my favorite stories of jewelry, and this is throughout the entirety of history. And this goes back to Roman times. And it was a bet between Cleopatra and it was Marcus Aurelius and Cleopatra. And what it was is a bet to see who could put on the most expensive dinner. So Cleopatra ventured to Rome, sat with Mark Antony, and he brought out and tigers and lions and bears and slew everything and all kinds of feasts and all kinds of wine and spent lots of money in order to try and impress Cleopatra. Well, he of course reciprocated, traveled to Egypt, went to have dinner with Cleopatra, and emptied an empty chamber, an empty royal chamber, with her sitting alone on the throne. And all she did was take off a single beautiful, perfect pearl earring, crushed it under her foot, swept it into a glass of wine, of vinegar wine, and slowly sat there as it dissolved into nothing. And believe it or not, Cleopatra won that bet. Because at the time, pearls were not farmed, were not easily and readily available. They had to be sought out from places hundreds, if not thousands of miles away, and were intrepidly expensive. I just thought that's one of those really fun historical stories of where jewelry actually takes place in international and major relations. And in fact, they've made paintings and told stories about Cleopatra's single pearl earring getting dissolved into a glass of wine for literally millennia now. One of the other cool things is being able to pick up on a lot of even just U.S. history. Wanted to show you something really cool tonight. And this we found in a box of stuff that came from an estate up north. And it was back when they actually would give away pennants with when you won different sports leagues. I'll let you get a better look at this. And one of the cool things about it, because I was very unfamiliar with its history, it's dated 1907, 1908, given to the pitcher, the winner of the Mud Ball League. Now, I'd never heard of a Mud Ball League. It was kind of very confusing to me, and I had to sit down and do a lot of research on it. Well, it turns out that Americans in this era loved baseball so much that they wanted to play it all the way through the winter. And of course, there was no spots available up north that weren't covered in snow. So one of the things that they figured out to do was take a boxing glove, tie it super, super tight, wrap string around it, and then they could actually play a modified version of baseball inside because the ball was limited to the space that it would fly, how far and how fast it would go. And this developed for quite a few years. And this smaller indoor league grew and grew and grew. And eventually they changed their name from mud ball to softball. Yeah, this was actually an original 1907 softball American Championship pennant. I just thought that was really cool. And if any of you are MASH fans, if you ever listen to Klinger talk about the Toledo Mud Hens, the Mud Hens were a softball game or softball team from his hometown. And that's why it was called the Mud Hens, because it was originally called Mud Ball. Kind of cool. And there's just all kinds of really cool stories that happen like that where you're digging through piles of jewelry. In fact, if any of you joined us 2 weeks ago for our show, we did a treasure hunt. And one of the things that we found in there was actually a company pin that came out of California in this same area, the 1880s to 1890s, that was an ice delivery company. And just finding something so odd and unusual and memorable as that is one of the things that we truly, truly love about this business and really makes what we do fun. And we love for you to join us, come along with us, enjoy these adventures, and I love bringing them up as much as we can. So I wanted to go into a couple of my personal stories. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. Now, one of the most difficult things for me to explain, and one of the easiest ways that I can put it to my customers, is the rapid increase in the cost of gold, especially bracelets and necklaces, anything that's truly, truly solid. And one of the things that I tell everybody is, when I started this business, gold was $286 an ounce. So what necklace that I used to sell for $286, today I have to get $1,753 for the same necklace. And there's no margin of error in that one. So when you're walking into stores and you're finding pieces of jewelry and you're going, wow, that's prohibitively expensive. Well, right now it is, simply because of the raw materials that's involved with it. And when you're buying and selling in the amounts that we do, that's the only way that you can look at it. If you're going to buy something and sell something, it basically has to be based on the amount of raw materials, in this case gold and or silver, that's in it. Which is why our silver here at Glorious Estates is just incredibly affordable. It's super, super cheap. And I hate using that term, but it's very affordable. And as always, if you're interested, please scroll through, go on over to Facebook, go over to our Instagram page, like us and share us, and scroll on through. And if you see anything you like, don't be afraid to give us a call, 662-781-8400. And as always, we're open to messages. So if you got a question, a comment, a joke, a crack, a limerick, whatever it might be, go ahead and write us, and we'll do everything we can in our power. One other story that I wanted to bring up tonight is, and this is from many years ago, so the accuracy of individual statements is, untenable. However, I had a couple come in one time, of course, with a couple of folks with them, and they were completely blind. Both man and wife, completely blind. And of course, I'm thinking, well, how am I going to sell them jewelry? And literally, we spent an hour at the showcase having to go through individual pieces. And they were looking through with their hands, looking more so at the shapes and the curves and the feel of the individual rings, and allowing me to describe not only the colors, but the styles, the look of them. And I thought that was a very interesting way, all of a sudden, a different way to look at jewelry. That these people didn't see jewelry the way you do or I do. They saw it through their own framework. And they allowed me the opportunity to sell them actually 2 rings because of a completely different framework that they were approaching what I was looking at. Very, very, very cool story. So I actually have the title under my belt of being able to sell jewelry to a blind person. I will take that in high esteem for as long as I live. One of the other stories, and a couple of y'all that know me personally, I've told this quite a bit recently, had a couple come in, and I was replacing the man's watch battery. Popped the back off of his watch, and I could not, for the life of me, with a press, with a pair of pliers, could not get the back on this watch. Well, in the meantime, as I'm having other folks work on it for me, I'm entertaining, shall I say. I'm sales pitching the young lady on the stuff in the case. And one of the things I really wanted to show off to her was our expansive number of loose diamonds. And one of the things in there at the time was actually a small 10, 12 pointer pink diamond. It was a pear shape. So I took a pair of tweezers, put it in there, locked them up, gave it to her, and she was looking at them, very cool. And all of a sudden from across the room, I literally heard this watch pop. The watch back went back on it, pop. And everybody kind of went, whew. And from the corner of my eye, I see this little pink haze fly past me. And I hear it ding behind me, and I realize that the diamond that was in those tweezers just popped out of there and flew across the room. And I kind of heard where it went and didn't really know. And I turned around, and I started looking for it. And this young lady started absolutely crying, absolutely bawling about how she had lost a pink diamond. And I said, no, honey, you didn't lose anything. Just because of the fact that we don't have it in front of us doesn't mean it's gone anywhere. It's still here. We just don't know where it is. And it's not like it's going to go anywhere very, very far. And of course, it took me at least another 10 minutes to console this young lady and tell her, trust me. It is not without abandon. We will find it. It will all work out in the long run. And trust me, it did. And just what impressed me was her being, so heartfelt about, possibly losing something that was ours. And it truly, truly was a fun, weird experience. Wanted to go into some of the other stuff. The weirdest stuff that we've ever had to do in here. One of the very first large purchases that I ever made, and this is literally a couple days into the business, was this gorgeous, and I wish I had thousands of these rings now, mine cut solitaire diamond surrounded in a pave dome of all these other mine cut diamonds. Now, I was very unfamiliar with a lot of the processes like I am nowadays, and a lot of it when you're just starting is touch and feel and trying to figure out what is what and what goes best with what. So I cleaned this beautiful ring up, and when I got done, I realized that one of the diamonds is not there anymore. And for me, tore apart all the cleaning area, couldn't find it, spent hours looking for this poor stone, could not find it. Called up one of the local jewelers, and he told me essentially that to fix that diamond would be hundreds of dollars just because he had to special order it. Now, one of the things that you can see when a mine diamond is that instead of it being flat on the top, it has this really nice asymmetrical dome, and it's more of a rounded stone. Now, if you want to hear more about mine cut diamonds and other cut diamonds, remember to jump back to our 4Cs tutorial. It was something fun that we did a little bit a while ago, and honestly, on YouTube, it's getting the most hits. So that's our number one right now. Please jump over to YouTube and watch it. Let's bump those numbers up. So instead of us ordering a new diamond, I was having to figure out what's the best, easiest way to replace this and make it look common to every other stone around it. So I took a standard, modern, round, brilliant diamond that was the same size and diameter as the others. And I turned it upside down, and I'd been working with diamonds a little bit more now. This is a couple weeks later. And I took a pair of just standard clippers, and I was able to clip the bottom of the diamond off of that smaller stone. And all of a sudden it appeared from the underside of this stone to look exactly like a mine cut diamond. And it was the perfect diameter fit in that ring. Wouldn't you know it, it fit in perfectly. To this day, you cannot tell where that stone is. Now, I did feel bad about reselling that to anybody in that condition. So you know what? Just gave it to my mom instead. So my mom currently has that 100-plus-year-old beautiful ring with the one holdout diamond that if I gave to 100 jewelers in this country, I would guarantee you that none of them would be able to find out which stone it was. So Speaking of my mom, I want to tell you a very funny story. I came in one day and I was making a deal, and I thought I'd done very, very well. I'd made a few $100s, and I walked over and one of my associates handed me 3 rings that she had purchased. And one of them was a 2-carat radiant cut. And I was like, where did this come from? She said, it was in the lot. I was like, what did you pay? And she goes, exactly what they asked for. And I don't remember how much it was. Well, a 2-carat, probably E or F in color, VV or VS1 radiant cut stone. I had nowhere to go with it but to mom. So I gave that to my mother for Christmas. And I did warn her. I said, now listen, this is going to be the biggest thing that you ever get. Don't expect anything bigger ever again. Well, I'm kind of a practical joke. So the next year, I, of course, had to outdo myself. And I wasn't going to go out and buy a much larger 2-carat diamond, much larger than 2 carats. But instead, I found her a 268-carat Swiss blue topaz emerald cut, which happens to be her favorite cut and her favorite stone. For those of you that are unaware, a 268-carat topaz is somewhere between 1 inch and 1.5 inches squared. This thing literally looks and feels like a brick. And I took it to one of my local buddies to have him set it. And he set it in a piece that could be worn as a brooch or as a slide on an omega. And it actually turned out absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. And so that year when I gave it to my mom, I was easily able to reassure her that for Christmas, she would never, ever get anything bigger than a 268 carat. So one of the last little bit stories, one of the things I love to cover is some of my colored stone nerdiness. Some of you that follow me and are big fans know that I'm a massive, massive fan of colored stones. And I just want to tell you about my favorite one. And I have discussed it before, and it's called Fordite. And its nickname is Motor City Agate. And it is one of really the coolest patterned stones out there because it swirls of multiple different colors, and it truly does resemble a natural agate and the layers that can be represented in a natural agate stone. And that's how you get such beautiful things as cameos and other moonstones and bloodstones in that agate family. Well, what Motor City Agate is actually natural formation, and it's up in Detroit in the paint houses where they were painting all these cars. And they would roll cars in, spray them down, move them along, bake them. And the floor of that paint room got sprayed and baked and sprayed and baked over and over and over and over again through thousands, if not millions of different cars. And it would lead to a paint buildup on the floor. And every couple of years they'd come in and chip it out. And each layer would have a different color according to the color of the car or the year of the car that they were painting at the time. And if you knew your cars well enough, if you knew your colors well enough, you could actually look at a piece of this and know which factory it came out of and what year it was because of some of the specialty colors that are associated with different cars. So Fordite is just one of those really fun things. If you get a chance, go ahead and look up Fordite, Motor City Agate. It's a really fun story. It's a really fun piece of history. It's another one of those quirks in this industry that I truly do love, that really makes it fun and it really makes it worth it. Again, like I said, this was kind of an experiment. I wanted to see how this went. If you like this format, go ahead and drop us a line, give us a message, because I want to know if we need to do this again or never do this again, that kind of thing. And as always, I want to take the time to thank you for inviting me into your house, especially on an informal night like tonight, where it's just kind of us talking. This is one of the things I love. This is one of the best parts of the business, is taking the time and talking with people and explaining stories and living life and having history and examining everything. I absolutely love it. This is gorgeous. Once again, thank you for letting us into your houses. And as always, if you need something, if you want help, if you need anything from us, don't hesitate to contact us. And until then, we'll see you next time.
Everlasting and true, it's all because of you. That smile sure looks good on you. That smile sure looks good.